So I'm going to do a short introduction in English. Tonight we're going to have a screening, almost 40 minutes film. There are two interviews with people who used to live in the city, two Roma people living in the city who were evicted. And they describe in the film their route in the city and how the municipality acted. And after the short film, ai dat un last scene? No. Okay. So yeah, this will be in English a little bit. No? Yeah. So welcome everyone. Okay, so we're gonna see a film, two interviews with people who were evicted from the central part of the city. And after the screening, which will last around 40 minutes, we will have a discussion on housing justice and anti-racism. And we have four guests with us tonight. So first we're going to see the film, and afterwards the discussion. We have two translators, Adina and Zsolt. And well, I hope the technical part will go fine. And cine nu... yeah, so who doesn't speak Romanian? The discussion is going to take place in Romanian. So who doesn't understand Romanian should grab a headset for the translation. And the four guests are going to have 10 minutes presentation, each of them. And afterwards, we're going to open the scene for questions and extended debate. All right.
Bună ziua, mă numesc Dog Ioan. Cândva am locuit aici, în zona aceasta, este calea Turzii numărul 14. În anii 92, 93, 94, 95, 96 eram aici, eram o singură familie de romi. După aceea, pe parcurs, s-au mai mutat și alții. Eram puștan și aveam foarte mari legături cu piața Mihai Viteazu, pentru că noi de acolo ne-am mutat aici. Cunoșteam pe foarte mulți olteni, oștejeni, regățeni și îmi făcuse tata, Dumnezeu să-l ierte, un cărucior pe 4 roți și mă trezeam dimineața la 4:30, 5, nu era atât de multă aglomerație, ieșeam pe partea dreaptă cu căruțul și mă puneam pe el și mă ducea până jos la catedrală, până jos la ăsta, ca să ajung în piața Mihai Viteazu la descărcat de roșii, vinete, castraveți și așa mai departe. Ulterior, când veneam, trebuia să-mi aduc căruțușorul acasă și mi-era atât de groază de dealul ăsta, Că de multe ori ziceam, nu, îi dau drumul, îl arunc, îl țăp. Dar pe undeva mi-aduc aminte că cu el îmi câștigam existența. Erau foarte mulți care vineau de la Turda dimineața la 4, cum erau autocarele atunci, cu marfă, și noi așteptam aici. Erau foarte mulți oștejeni care deja știau unde locuim. Și chiar dacă nu ajungeam noi dimineața aici, nu le era groază și veneau până la noi și ne băteau în geam.
Da.
Și ziceau pe maghiară, Ionica, Ios? Ziceam, da, stai că acum vin. Ieșeam repede afară ca să apuc să le car marfa la piața Mihai Viteazu. Aici nu era drum. Pe parcela asta de aici erau numai locuințe. Pe partea asta mai locuiau niște familii. Pe partea aia la biserică, la fel, locuiau niște băieți care ulterior și ei au primit locuință în Mărăș, pe Dunării. Undeva până anii 94-95 ne-am trezit cu plafonul la camera mare picat jos, ceea ce mama a încercat atunci prin primărie să renoveze sau să obțină o altă locuință în alte zone. Așa că prin demersul părinților mei am fost mutați legal pe strada Croitorilor numărul 11. Dar până să fim mutați, zona aceasta, numărul 14, numărul 12, s-au umplut de familii defavorizate, în special la numărul 12. În perioada aceea eu munceam, lucram la fostul Napoget, eram spălător stradal, aveam un rondou mare frumos de flori, aveam niște vecini aici care tot așa lucrau tot la primărie, tot în domeniul de construcții, ei reparau, demolau școli, XY era de... Mai jos mai aveam niște băieți care lucrau la Clujana, aveam băieți care lucrau la Carbochim, în zona asta, deci tineret. Pe partea dreaptă, de cine unde se face curba, erau o zonă de locuire, tot ceva romi stăteau, dar și ei erau foarte în regulă. 7 curți în care în fiecare curte erau câte 8-10 locuințe. Locuințe, când mă refer, la fiecare era compusă din 2 camere sau 3 camere bucătărie. Erau altele care erau o cameră, dar era 5 pe 4 sau 5 pe 5, deci erau enorme, erau foarte mari și foarte spațioase. Puteau liniștit să le vândă la oameni și să-și le repare oamenii. Și atunci nu mai era un teren atât de mare, gol. S-a vândut. Și eu îmi pun acum, după 20 ceva de ani, îmi pun întrebarea, nu era mai bine dacă le renovea și să locuim tot aici, în zonă de oraș, față de unde locuiesc acum? Pentru că dacă stați puțin să vă gândiți, erau locuințe de icral și aveam dreptul, prin lege, să locuim în ele. Dar așa s-au demolat, s-au vândut și, după cum vedeți, un teren plin de burene. N-au plecat toți deodată, au plecat foarte mulți pe rând. S-au luat de la numărul 2 fiecare curte în parte, fiecare locatar, fiecare familie. Au primit, care erau în drept și erau cu contracte de icral, au primit. Care au fost abuzivi nu au primit nimic. Și au făcut, după ce au dat jos de aici, și au făcut aici un cort și mulți dintre ei s-au mutat la Casa Călăului. Ulterior, pe parcursul anilor, m-am mai întâlnit cu câteva familii în blocul NATO. Ne-au dat termen să ne mutăm, noi ne-am mutat și după ce ne-am mutat noi, după o perioadă am început de a stricat. Mai veneau muncitorii de la Icral, mai luau jos geamuri, mai luau uși, cum erau pe vremea aia, dar nu să demoleze așa în masă, să zici că vai ce exagerat. Nu, deci până nu s-a mutat toată lumea de aici, nu a dat jos nimic. Cam în 96 a început cu demolările. Tot prin Nicral am obținut o locuință pe Croitorilor numărul 11, care acum văd că s-a făcut ceva cabinete medicale și farmacie TESA. Pe partea dreaptă aveam vecin o profesoară, care era profesoară la universitate, iar aici, pe partea din față, era un atelier de confecții. Curtea era împărțită în două, pe motivul că un vecin care locuia în spate era proprietar și el era de meserie măcelar. Casa, când am primit-o, era puțin devastată. Tatăl meu, Dumnezeu să-l ierte, a zis că e ok, că o face pe banii lui, din cauza că piața era aproape de casă și piața era jobul lui. Se ocupa cu vânzările. Și de aceea a acceptat-o. Lângă noi era cuptorul fermecat, care era atunci în floare cu produse de panificare și XY și s-a făcut o clădire destul de imensă.
Se pare că a demolat tot.
Tot. Deci n-a mai rămas nimic. Casa noastră era compusă dintr-o bucătărie, un hol, baie și 2 camere. Aveam un nuc mare în mijlocul curții, era super. Era plăcut. Părinții mei au reușit de a cumpăra locuința cu legea 112. Ulterior, după o perioadă de timp, am aflat că locuințele toate din curte au un proprietar, un singur proprietar care era în satul mare sau Baia Mare și ulterior ne-a evacuat pe fiecare pe rând. Cert este că mi-aduc aminte, maică mea n-a primit nimic la schimb pentru că a fost evacuată și a locuit în mai multe spații sub închiriere și ulterior a primit fratele meu mai mare apartament pe strada Timișului, care și lor actuală locuiesc acolo. Da, deci aici nu pot să-mi dau seama de ce se construiește la ora actuală mai multe birouri, mai multe cabinete decât locuințe pentru oameni. Nu a putut găsi primăria un acord cu el ca să, știu eu, să ne mărească chiria, de exemplu, să beneficieze proprietarul de chirie și așa mai departe, ca să putem sta mai mult termen aici decât e prevăzut în lege cu cei 5 ani. Au trecut o perioadă de câțiva ani buni și te trezești că sunt birouri, cabinete și XY. Acum nu știu dacă cei de la urbanism, dar credeți dumneavoastră că nu au acceptat să facă, pentru că eu mă gândesc că dacă nu aveau acordul lor, nu o făceau. Deci totul au găsit de ei o portiță și o lege, un articol dintr-o lege care să le permită să facă ceea ce fac.
Da, sigur.
La ora actuală, orice lege și orice cod de procedură, cum zic ei, au un articol sau au o literă care zice că le permite să facă și sunt îndreptățiți să facă. Dar chestiile astea se fac numai la oamenii cu bani. Pentru că autoritățile astea e pasul lor cel mai mare, să scoată oamenii de până oraș care nu sunt cu acte legale, să-i trimită la periferie.
Da.
Deci nu
Și
este...
mai ales din zonele astea,
Ei,
unde
vă dați
costă
seama,
mult
deci,
teren.
într-o zonă de asta unde costă, știu eu, 150-200 de euro metru pătrat, nu le-ar fi mai convenit să scoată pe mărâți afară și să le dea o băracă de termopan nu știu unde și ei să iei banul mai gros. Vedem că și cuptorul fermecat este închis, deși știam că acolo e proprietară doamna Ana, mama Ana, cum era aia al lui tată. Iar eu cu soția, ulterior, ne-am mutat în Gheorgheni, în cartierul Gheorgheni, pe strada Albac, postul bloc NATO. Ei, mai aduce aminte de blocul tău? Și el a locuit aici. Gunoaiele și mirzirea care erau, cel puțin acum dacă ne uităm, sunt puncte de gunoi. Atunci nu existau așa ceva. Dar în schimb la parter, de jur împrejurul blocului, era plin de gunoi. Păi nu venea nici dracu să ridice, mai ales că știa că stau romi și așa mai departe, nici nu aveau intenția să vină să-l ridice. Nu aveam geamuri, majoritatea dintre noi aveam folie puse în geam. Deci vă dați seama că arăta ca un bloc de la abandonat. Și într-adevăr că așa și a fost. A fost un bloc abandonat.
Deci era mare.
Deci foarte mare. Deci foarte mare. Era o denumire pusă de copii, era scrisă cu spray NATO și chiar atunci era sezonul ăla de intrarea țării noastre în Uniunea Europeană, în formația NATO și am zis ok, blocul ăsta e NATO. Atât pentru că era și afumat, era și devastat și am zis ok, ăsta e NATO. Și atunci așa a rămas denumirea, NATO. La parter era o mizerie de nedescris, erau animale, cai, porci, măgari. Pe partea aceea din spate gunoi ajungea până aproape la etajul 1. Pe partea aceasta, la etajul 1, stătea soacra, deci Catalina. Pe partea cealaltă locuiam eu, tot așa într-o cameră de 3x4 cu fiica și cu soția. Nu era apă, nu era curent, nu aveam toalete. Mergeam sus pe la etajul 3, la toaletă, apă ceream de aici sau de la biserica aia, care era. Lumină aveam la lumânări, foarte precarii, vă dați seama că făceam foc cu lemne, deci era fumat până la Dumnezeu. Se locuia doar la etajul 1 și la 2. Oamenii își câștigau existența, unii cu servici, alții după gunoaie, exact ca și acum. Atunci nu era interzis ca să umbli cu căruța. Erau foarte mulți care aveau cal și căruță, le țineau aici la parter și umblau ziua după moloz, după fier vechi, după ce găseau de muncă. Autoritățile așa au încercat să mușamalizeze, să-i facă pe rom de o cară. Că vezi, Doamne, dacă le dăm la oameni, la țigani în special, dacă le dăm cărți, în loc să aibă grijă de ele, își bagă animalele înăuntru. Dar nu este adevărat. Blocul acesta a fost părăsit. Blocul acesta urma după ce a fost părăsit ca să se renoveze și între timp așa s-a întâmplat că a fost ocupat de romi. Și ceva normal, că erau oameni care aveau măgari, erau oameni care aveau cai și o băga la parter, că nu aveau unde să-i pună. Dar nu au fost date pe post de locuință. Deci, în momentul când eu mă mut undeva abuziv, aia nu înseamnă că autoritățile mi-au făcut un contract ca să am condițiile decente. Pentru că dacă erau să aibă oamenii condițiile decente, deci să mă refer la apă, lumină și toaletă și asta, nu se ajungea ca să bage animalele în casă cu ei. Când stai așa la etajul 1 sau 2 și te uiți în jurul sărbătorilor de iarnă și să n-ai curent, să n-ai nimic, ca ți-ai dorit și tu, mă, ce bine când el are lumina aia, ce trebuie, are un televizor, are... Și cam ți-ai dorit, dar în momentul când vezi că nu le ai, nu ai încotro, deci pur și simplu trebuie să înghiți sau trebuie să mergi la un prieten sau la rude care stau mai decent ca să petreci sărbătorile. Aici, în mare parte de sărbători, erau baterii de mașină pe care funcționau ca stofoane, mâncare ca la tătomul, lumina era la lumânare. Deci nu aveam, sau la baterie. Legam beculeț de la de 9 V și cu alea aveam lumină. Era un chin. Aici, dacă vroiai apă, mergeai la bisericuță sau te rugai de vecini să-ți dea apă. Aveam norocul că oamenii aici toți erau buni și niciodată nu zici că nu ne dă apă sau că... Da. Mulți dintre noi ziceam, nu, mă lași de rog frumos și când îți vine factura o împărțim sau... Înțelegi, niciodată nu s-a pus problema. Acum, la ora actuală, când îl văd că s-a făcut și locuințe de sociale și pentru cămini de studenți, mă uit la el și nu-mi vine să cred. Legal, prima dată ar trebui să rezolve problemele și situațiile oamenilor și familiilor, să aibă un loc cât de cât decent, cum scrie acolo afară, că locuințe sociale de calitate. Să nu le dea oamenilor ceva de calitate, să le dea oamenilor ceva decent. Și după aceea poate să facă și cămine și ce ar mai vrea ei. Nu ne-am gândit niciodată să depunem. Asta și prin faptul că eram rom și eram discriminați, că vezi, Doamne, e țigan și nu are venit, nu are aia, nu are aia, nu are aia. Într-adevăr că nici nu eram ajutați de cineva sau îndrumați de cineva să facem acest lucru.
N-a zis nimeni niciodată.
Nimeni nu ne-a zis nimeni niciodată. Și din cauza aceasta s-a și format la ora actuală cantonul, pentru că dacă atunci, acum 10-16 ani, era cineva care se îndrume cu oameni să-și depună dosare pentru locuință, că au dreptul și că sunt legal să primească, deci nu mă gândesc că se forma atât de mare comunitatea de pe cantonul. Vă dați seama că automat ziceam, ok, eu locuiesc acum, că e mizerie și e degradată, locuiesc acolo, aș dori să locuiesc în continuare când ar fi frumoasă și îmbunătățită. Dar neavând acte în primărie băgate și astea, fiecare s-au dus unde au putut sau unde au reușit, unde au fost duși de autorități. Se făcea razi în fiecare săptămână, să zic așa. Tot auzeam de la poliție că nu, lasă că vă mutăm, nu știu ce, și am zis ok, eu nu stau să vină să mă arunce ei afară, noi mergem. Și ne-am luat nevasta de mână și am plecat. În rest, după mine am mai locuit. Oamenii care au stat aici au mai locuit, 3-4 luni bune au locuit aici. Și numai după aceea am mutat. Cei care au rămas au fost mutați direct pe cantonul. deci de aici, din zona asta. A fost ultima destinație de la Calea Turzii, Casa Călăului, Mănăștirul și aici. Deci de aici, direct acolo i-a dus. Ulterior, după ce am văzut că chiar într-adevăr nu mai pot face față situațiilor de a plăti chirie, cheltuieli și nu mă ajungeam cu banii, deci ce reușeam să pun deoparte, mă trezeam că vine omul să dea banii pe chirie, vine factură de lumină, vine factură și pur și simplu nu mai reușeam să mă întrețin copiii, deci să-i îmbrec, să-i educ și așa mai departe. Și atunci m-am hotărât să mă mut pe cantonului, cu intenția ca banii ce-mi rămân, în schimbul chiriei și XY, să pot să-mi întrețin familia. Și în urmă cu aproximativ 13 ani, m-am hotărât să mă mut aici, bineînțeles cu acordul primăriei, mai bine zis doamnei Minedora Fritea, care mi-a dat un scris că avem dreptul să ne facem o baracă improvizată. Nu mi se pare adecvat o baracă de 4x4 suprafață, ținând cont că suntem membri, 3 membri, 4 membri. De exemplu, eu sunt cu 2 fete mari, zic mari în vârstă de 17-18 ani, mama lor a decedat și avem o baracă de 4x4 suprafață unde avem 2 paturi și pur și simplu vă dați seama că când vor să facă baie, tata ieși afară, sau eu invers, când vreau să fac baie, fetelor ieși afară. Nu avem toaletă, ne facem nevoile pe linii și la fel ca mine este toată comunitatea. La început, zona de locuire erau vagoane de tren. Cu sprijinul fundației ICE Homo s-au obținut aceste module de termopan 4x4 și aceste bărăci verzi, care au fost compuse tot așa 6x9, concepute pentru familii mai mari. Ulterior, cei care nu au reușit să obțină un termopan, li s-a dat acordul primăriei să-și facă improvizații. Din această cauză, cantonului în rog să micșoreze ca mărime și ca suprafață s-a mărit. Pentru că autoritățile care cum dau de un loc din Cluj, îi ia pe oameni și îi aduce aici. Să zicem de 160 și ceva de bărăci, la care avem doar 2 cișmele. Nu avem canalizare, nu avem curent electric, toată lumea. Curentul electric îl plătim de la cei care au ceas. Nu avem locuri amenajate pentru gunoi. După cum se și vede, gunoaiele sunt aruncate pe linia ferată, deși aveam un proces verbal și l-am și la ora actuală, semnat de Primăria Municipiului Cluj, zona metropolitană, Bradner-Vereș, care își luau angajamentul că vor face curățenie. După o perioadă de câteva luni, am primit răspunsul de la cei de la zona metropolitană că Asociația de Gunoi Bradner-Vereș nu ridică gunoiul din cauza că acesta nu este un gunoi reciclabil. La care mi-a pus întrebarea dacă aceste zone sau aceste peturi de doze sunt reciclabile, pentru că exact ce gunoi se adună din orașul Cluj-Napoca, exact același gunoi este și aici. Ce se poate recicla din oraș, se reciclează și de aici. Atât sticle, cât și cabluri, cât și fier. Problema cu ridicarea gunoiului a venit dinainte de un avertisment din partea căilor ferate, care menționau că vor să obțină de la prima linie ferată undeva la un 3-4 metri distanță pentru protecția oamenilor. Ținând cont că oamenii nu au nici toalete, avem niște toalete ecologice care sunt amplasate tot pe liniile ferate, puțin mai în depărtare, noi, locuitorii, cu zona metropolitană, am zis că nu putem ceda mai mult de 3 metri, pentru că oamenii sunt foarte mulți, comunitatea e foarte mare și nu avem unde să ne mutăm pur și simplu. Nu ne luăm bărăcile și le mutăm în stradă. Și din această cauză au zis ok, rămâne 3 metri de la linia ferată, dar să se facă curățenie pe linia ferată. Zona metropolitană Cluj-Napoca cu primăria, cu Bradnerul Vereș a zis ok, noi venim cu utilajele, noi venim cu XY, doar să iese oamenii la lucru. Noi am obținut forța de muncă, pentru că cu oricare membru din comunitate am stat, toată lumea a fost de acord să iese la muncă să lucre pentru a face curățenie. Dar problema a fost că Bradnerul și cu zona metropolitană s-au sucit la 90 de grade și n-au mai vrut să facă nimic, ținând cont că ziceau că acest gunoi nu este gunoi menajer. La fel ca și mine, foarte multă lume care cum au stat în zonele Clujului, și aici mă refer la cei de la gară de pe Chiovari, la cei de la Mănăștur, cei de pe Casa Călăului, cei de pe Casa Calea Turzii, majoritatea au fost mutați și adunați în această zonă. Deci nu aveau importanță de unde provin sau dacă au venituri sau dacă sunt în stare să plătească o locuință socială de stat, n-a ținut cont. Pe toată lumea ne-a mutat aici. Dacă făceau ce au făcut cu blocul ăsta, făceau cu toate zonele, la ora actuală poate nici nu exista cantonul. Să renoveze Casa Călăului, să renoveze Calea Turzii, începând de la numărul 2 până la numărul 14. Să renoveze tot ce era de renovat în Clujul ăsta pentru oameni și să nu-i arunce afară, să nu-i evacueze. La ora actuală nici nu știau oamenii ce înseamnă cantonul. Poate așa e, dacă ne uitam pe harta Clujului.
Da, frate Gelu, bisericuța asta a fost aici? Nu a fost. Nu a fost. Unde e blocurile ăștia, acolo am stat eu, casa părintească. A fost Rada Muncitorilor, deci a fost Pata Muncitorilor și Plugarilor și Georgen. Na, prin ei am stat eu muncitorilor. După biserica asta a fost piața Cipariu. Au fost multe prăvălii, eram copilă.
Părinții aveau apartament.
Nu apartament, casă, cu atunci au fost căși. De aici am primit eu 4 camere pe Aurel Laicu. Nu v-am povestit. Aici o demolat. Și toți frații mei au primit casă. Și eu am primit apartament, că am avut copii mulți.
Da.
Înțelegeți? Da, am avut 4 camere, dar n-am vândut. N-am fost proprietar. Am abandonat, n-am avut bani.
Nu ți aud bani să plătiți?
Da, bine.
Asta, apă, curent,
Situații, da.
Sau
Cheltuielile.
și
Depinde.
ați ieșit de acolo?
Exact, depinde. Am ieșit și am ajuns ultima hal. Aici, acolo. Asta
Dar cine
e.
v-a spus să ieșiți de acolo?
Urma. Am știut. Urma, doamna Enică. Am știut că o să ne evacueze. Și am zis de că să ne evacueze. Atunci noi plecăm. Și am ajuns aici. Am ajuns la NATO. Am ajuns pe Casa Călăului. De acolo ne-au pus în bunker, în Mănăștur, vis-a-vis de Bila. Și atunci, de acolo, pe cantonul. Hát itt amikor jöttem, én a 7 gyerekkel, itten voltak kicsi házacskák. De el voltak Abádonálva, mert azok, akik itt laktak, azok kaptak lakást. És mi bementünk, mert sokan voltunk, még jöttek utánam is. És azóta víz nem volt, kellett menjünk lappiacra vízért, nem volt se gáz, se hűtés, semmi, se villany, de mégis örventük, hogy van a gyerekeknek hova tegyük őket, hogy ne essen az eső rájuk. Itten volt, itt ezen a helyen itt volt. Utánuk aztán nagyon sokan jöttek, és mikor megtudta, hogy sokan dolgoztunk is az államnál. Miután megtudta a primaria, hogy mi idejöttünk, bementünk ezekbe az abuzív lakásba, kicsi házaskákba, jöttek és ledémolálták az egészet. Elkergettek persze, de hát nem volt hova menjünk. És akkor mi arrább mentünk, arrább úgyni oda, és csináltunk fából, és nem volt annyi fa, tettünk nájlont, és egészen decemberig itten voltunk, képzelj el. A földre tettünk peplanyokat, és úgy aludtunk, mert nem volt mit csinálni. Innen mentünk dolgozni, el tetszik képzelni, Domnánike. És csináltunk tüzet, nem volt kemence. Mert mit csináltuk volna a kemencével? Sőt, kormossal. El tetszik hinni, elmentem, vittem a táskákba a ruhákat. Egy volt kolléganőmnél, és ottan megengedtem, mossam ki, és megszárította a kalorifere, úgy hoztam a gyerekeknek. Öltöző ruhát. Én az árgyálóban voltam. Takarítónő, ahol kellett, a WC-nél, szemétnél, akárhol, csak kapjak egy fizetést. Voltak esküvők, hoztam enni a gyerekeknek is, nem volt hol közni. Itten voltunk, itt kint, voltunk vagy 30 lélek. Aztán ők elmentek, mi itt maradtunk. De már nagyon hideg volt, és március felé elmentünk mi is oda a Kászák Leónba, nem volt mit csinálni. És akkor ott voltunk az egészen. Semmit abszolút nem építettek. Így maradt így, ahogy lássam alul. Mert minket normálisan nem is tudtak volna itt hagyni, szégyen szemre lássák az emberek, mert főút. Normális, de gondoltuk, hogy valahová, mégiscsak eltesznek valahova, de nem, sehogy sem. És dolgoztam, én is, a férjem is, és a gyerekek maradtak szegények. Mondhatom, hogy kint voltak az utcán.
Era o denumire pusă de copii, era scrisă cu spray NATO și chiar atunci era sezonul ăla de intrarea țării noastre în Uniunea Europeană, în formația NATO și am zis ok, blocul ăsta e NATO. Atât pentru că era și afumat, era și devastat și am zis ok, ăsta e NATO.
Pe scări, în casă bolani m-ar da seama cum am dus eu, cu ochii închiși așa și am strigat, că sobolanul fuge, știți, până când am intrat. Zi și noapte eu trebuie să închid ușa. Dar ce ziceți dumneavoastră? Ce viață am avut noi? Bună?
Și de acolo v-au scos de ce?
Într-o dimineață, după ce au venit țigani, din toate părțile, au venit doamna Frichea și ne-au anunțat că ne țipa afară, deci evacuare. Nu am pachetat hăinul de NATO, știi, toate. Dar într-o dimineața, când m-am uitat pe geam afară, că nu era geam, era nylon, au fost evacuare, am luat nylon. Când m-am uitat afară, negru a fost. Toate cartierul ăla, era un părculeț. Negru a fost, atâta jandarmerie n-am văzut în viața mea. La fiecare, dacă eu am zis, duceți-mă pe Patarot. Aveam mașină la dispoziție. Să-mi pun patul, vasele, copii, tot. Înțelegeți? Și atunci eu am zis, el i-a zis că, unde să vă ducem? Duceți-mă unde vreți. M-am luat, i-a pus pe mașină, pe o dubiță mare și m-a dus pe Patarot. Mi-a dus pe Patarot, toată familia mea. Pe rampă. Eu n-am vrut să rămân acolo, eu zic așa cum e. De acolo, și dați seama că am avut și un căruț, meream după lani, după cartoni pe vremea aia. Mi-am pus toate cele ce o trebuit, atunci acum, unde să pun patul? Acum, hainele la copii, vasele ce am avut. De acolo am venit pe aici, Casa Călelului. Atunci. Era gunoi aici.
Era plin de molozuri, era plin de gunoaie și
Mormante.
eram 4 inși care am dat tot gunoiul din curte, am făcut curățenie în curte, am făcut ca lumea. Eu tăia curentul de aici ca să putem să părăsim.
Stai nu un pic. După poartă era camera unde am făcut noi. Au fost mulți, mai mulți familii au fost.
Am fost mai mulți,
Numai eu ce amintesc, nu vreau să spun.
că era rău de tot.
El știe mai bine, pentru că eu n-am stat mult aici.
Era rău de tot.
Am stat vreo 2 ani aici, atât am apucat. Că e evacuat toată tine. és vittek minket a bunkerbe.
Amikor a tűz volt.
Nem voltam.
Akkor hol volt? Akkor
Itt
ott...
voltam, itt. NATO-ban voltam. Igen. Aztán onnantól evakuáltak, és megint csak ide jöttem.
Csak
Nem
összetalálkoztak még.
Igen, mert nem volt hova menni, úgy van. Sajnos,
Noi am suferit mult aici,
da,
iscă ca noi.
noi am suferit și eu cu ei, cu frații mei, pentru că așa au fost să fie.
Siguranță, dacă bei și bei și bei, foarte mare. Da.
Hát, ahogy tetszik látni, ez a blokk. Itten, hogy bemenjünk, itten van valami lépcsők, ottan mentünk be, egész le a pincébe. Itten voltunk, van vagy 20-25 szoba, hát úgy nevezzük szoba, mind betonból van az egész. Nem tudtuk, mikor van nappal, mikor van este. Villany volt az, ameddig ők akarták, a lokatárok, és volt béce, és volt víz. Aztán a lakók jöttek reánk, fejszével, kalapácokkal, lapátokkal, és verélnek meg minket, hogy menjünk el innen. És addig, ameddig jött a primaria egy nap, és feltettek minket traktorokra, autókára, és elvittek oda a kantonolói. Nem volt jó az élet itten. Teli voltunk patkányokkal, megbetegedett sok gyerek, sok felnőtt. Itt volt paralizált, öreg asszony, fiatal leány, gyermekek, és a gyermekek nem tudtak menni iskolába se, mert nem volt honnan. És úgyhogy nem volt szép az élet itt. Nu putem să stăm aici și dacă era, să zicem, camere cu chei, pentru că locatarii nu suportat, că suntem țigani și suntem așa cum suntem, rom. Așa este. És kijöttünk, és mentünk ott van el a gárnőnek, ott van az alimentár, a légumik, fructe, minden. Cigaretta ott van, az üzletek vannak, szukok, sok minden van, csak pénz legyen, persze. Nehéz volt ugyan meg, mert nem tudtuk enni egy lebesét, tehát nem tudtuk enni egy sörkrumplit, valamit, mint szalámi, szalonna, ilyesmi, konzerveket ettünk. Na elmentünk, én mentem a nagypiacra, tudja? És ott árultak olyan ilyen plastikpohárba levest. Hát is vettem magamnak, én ettem. Mert már fájt a gyomrom, már nem lehetett. Jó, ha vendéglőben nem volt annyi pénz bemenni, enni. Tetszik tudni be az étel, drága. És aztán a damna minodora plicsá, én elintéztem minél hamarabb. Menjünk, hogy ne legyen baj itt. Mi nem akartuk jönni, persze, nem mi választottuk ezt, hanem a primaria. Már mikor odabittek minket a kantoni úton, volt kemence, egy kicsi fát innen-onnan szedtünk, már köztünk. Köztünk már. Ugyanúgy voltunk a fasbarakba, de főztünk egy fazék ételt, akármit, csak lé legyen.
Igen, ezek pár napig biztos jó.
Hát normális, hát normális, és meleg volt, és normális. Behúztuk azt olyan ajtók volt, mint hogy mondjam magának, az ábátornál vannak azok nagy hűtőszekrények, olyan ajtunk volt. Képzelj el.
Az úgy szólhatott.
Persze, nyikorgó, de aztán ameddig jött Bert, aztán télen, tudja milyen hideg volt, nyáron meleg volt. Télen nagyon hideg volt, és megfagyott, a tetejére esett a hó, nagy hó volt, és aztán beül bent, ilyen jég volt. reggel, mikor felkeltünk, hogy csináljuk, úgy aludtunk, kabáttal és mindennel. Mikor felkeltünk, hogy csináljunk egy tüzet, akkor aztán megengedett, ugye tiszta vízben voltunk. Elmúlt ez is. Elmúlt. És aztán jött, küldte a drága jóisten Bertet, Margarittal. A drága jóisten nagyon neki került egészséget, a Jézuska, és akkor csinált nekünk barakkot. És ezt azt mondta, bontsuk le, dörjük el, vágjuk el, adjuk el a ráknál, és főzzünk egy pazikét el, mert ez nem lehet lakni itt. És akkor úgy csináltunk, mert ő beszélt a primariában, nem még kellett visszaadni, és akkor mindenkük eladtuk, főztünk, mit csináljunk? Igen. Na, vettünk szappany, délután mostunk, így volt kedicsokoló. Nem volt szép, de valahogy úgy csináltuk, hogy jól legyen.
Azok a zöldházi kok jól meg voltak
Hát jó,
csinálva.
persze. Hát van tető, van
És arra
padló.
volt akkor valami szerződés is.
Van nekem, Bertnél van. Megmondtam, van, és meg se elveszem tőle. Kinek van, mit sem lehetősége, vegyem ki a gyógyszert. Például a Léna, hogy vagyunk, nincs pénzem. Ott vagyunk, ahol vagyunk, ahol tudja a primaria is, kantonuló, egyik a másiknak a hátán vagyunk, WC-nk nincs, szemetes ládánk nincs, pedig fizetni nem vagyunk éppen olyan részvémadált emberek, mert mi is fizetnénk. De nincs hova tegyük a szemetet, uraim, nincs hova menjünk a WC-re. Mi is emberek vagyunk, nekünk is van lelkünk. Én ahogy vagyunk, nincs pénzem, vegyek meg az orvoságot.
Hát igen.
Nu mai am ce să zic. Asta e.
Aici suntem până la ora actuală. Că a început primăria să minte că noi ne-am instalat aici și noi ne-am pus aici. Nu este adevărat. Dacă noi ne-am mutat aici, cine ne-a tras apa nouă? De aici de la cei. Ne-a tras apa în curte. Și aici și acolo mai jos. Cine ne-a tras apa? Nu primăria.
O să vorbesc în limba română mai departe, but one last quick announcement. So this discussion is going to take place in Romanian, but there's translation, but please find some headsets. Most of them are in this area, so not too far in the back. Pentru că probabil mai sunt persoane care nu sunt parte din coaliție. Ar fi cazul să fac și o scurtă prezentare. Eu mă numesc George Zamfir, fac parte din Căș Social.
So, my name is George Zamfir, and I'm a member of Social Housing Now.
În primul rând,
First of all,
un anunț din păcate ionică, pe care l-ați văzut la început.
first of all, I would like to tell you that Ionut is not among us anymore. He deceased not long ago.
Ne așteptam. Din fericire, reușise să se mute cu familia în provință.
He was fortunate enough
Deci reușise să vadă
so
lumea de la
that
capătul
he and his family managed to move into an apartment before his death.
Invitații din această seară sunt din partea
Our
socială acum
guests
și din partea
tonight are from Social Housing Now and Roma Just.
din zona Patar.
Maria Stoica
Enică Vință,
is an activist.
la Universitatea
Vince Nica is a professor at the BBT, at the Bolyai University. Greta is also an activist from Patarut, and Inica is a lawyer and activist in Roma Just.
inițiat în ultimii câțiva ani. O să începem cu
We will
Maria.
begin with Maria,
Și, desigur, fiind vorba de traducere simultană, o să aduc aminte
And
să încercăm să...
we will try to speak more slowly so I can translate.
Salut!
Hey,
Bine v-am găsit!
nice to be here.
Despre
I will
rasismul mascat,
speak a little bit
chiar și cu distanța socială
about
și cu alte pretexte.
racism.
Spun poate mai alea puțin dintre ele unele.
Um,
În urmă cu o lună de zile
um,
am un băiețel
1 month ago,
de un an și un pic
I-
și unul de 11 ani.
I have a little boy.
Am aflat de la sora mea care
I have two
lucrează
little boys.
în mall, Julius Mall,
Okay.
la McDonald's, că în incinta respectivă va
Um,
fi un iglu, un spațiu pentru copii.
So,
Va fi gratis intrarea. No, ne-am bucurat, mergem și noi. Ei, când am ajuns acolo, au intrat pe rând copii de diferite...
When we got
de diferite naționalități, iar când ne-a venit nou rândul,
several
mi s-a spus că
try to speak now, please.
mi s-a spus că se face doar pe bază de programare.
there,
Putem să reluăm?
Deci am mers la
so
spațiul respectiv de joacă.
we went to that playground and we tried to take our children there. There were several nationalities there, Romanian children, Hungarian children, but we were told that in fact we had to make a reservation. We had to book the playground. At first we thought, okay, maybe it's the same for everyone. Maybe everyone else had made a booking.
Și am zis, ok, fă-ne te rog și nouă programare.
And we
Asta era
asked
nevoia și
for a reservation. This was on a Thursday, and the gentleman said we could come on a Sunday evening at 7 o'clock. We thought, all right, we could do that. We calmed the children down. We said that we had to make a reservation.
după care, duminică când am mers,
And then on Sunday,
alte persoane aveam programare.
when we went to the playground, we realized that everyone who didn't have a booking could go to the playground except for us.
Un acvariu cu pești și minunății. Ok, putem intra? Da, sigur. Cum să
People were asking, people who were just passing by would ask, could we just come in without a reservation? And they were told, of course, do come in. And we weren't allowed to go in. And at 7 o'clock in the evening, when we had our booking, we weren't allowed to go in because the last screening had been at 30:30, and we weren't allowed to enter past that time.
că bunacă mea e un pic mai rea de gură.
My sister-in-law is very
Și le-a zis la
feisty,
pe voi o să vă las să intrați după ce pleacă ele, să nu vă vadă că intrați.
which is why we were allowed to finally get in, but without anyone else seeing that. The children were very disappointed.
Un alt fel de rasism.
But this was a different kind of racism. right? Because the color of our skin was speaking for itself. We're very disappointed we left with the children, and we promised ourselves that we would never try to get in again, not even for free. Can you hear me? Okay. Oh, everyone's nodding.
Să preluăm aici traducerea.
Sorry about the music in the background. It's not us. I'll try to speak louder. A different racism and discrimination case against children again. For instance, there are 2 or 3 Roma children in the playground. Even if the other children are fine with that, parents do tend to take their children away from the Roma children, and the Roma children tend to be left alone in the playground. So obviously, our children cannot and do not want to interact with other children. They can only interact with each other. Testing, testing, 1, 2, can you hear me? Yeah, thanks. So now, since the pandemic has been over, we're starting to feel racism stronger again. During the pandemic, racism was masked due to social distancing. So we couldn't accuse anyone at the time of racism because it was the same for everyone. We had to keep a social distance. But now, for some people, social distancing. Roma ethnics, we still have to keep social distance in shops, institutions, and all throughout. Even in supermarkets such as Kaufland, we have to maintain social distancing. And there is one more thing, also related to racism, which is the following. I come from Patarât, which is the landfill, but I was lucky enough to have an ID on a different address in Cluj-Napoca. So I managed to enroll my child in a school, at a school in the center of the city, not on the outskirts. But some of the parents, the principal of the school, and the teachers do not know that my child comes from Patarât, from the landfill. They think that he lives in the city center, which is why, for the time being, my child is not subject to racism. He did feel it in the 1st grade when a teacher asked for his bus subscription, and he found out that he had been born in Patarât at the landfill. What happened next was that my child had to sit at a desk at the back of the room. He was a bit isolated because the teacher knew that he was born at the landfill. But for the time being, my child still doesn't know what racism is due to other wonderful people around him.
Iar în încheiere vreau să vorbesc despre găși.
In the end, I would like to talk about social housing now, and I would like to talk about what we've managed to do for the people who have been evacuated, evicted. Maybe you have witnessed an eviction, or maybe you haven't, but you should know that this is a sorrowful moment, and that's when you most need someone next to you. We, from the association Social Housing Now, supported all the people who got evicted. We morally supported them, and we felt that they were hopeful because of that. They clung to that hope, basically. Even if we weren't able to promise them social housing, more often than not, it's important to listen to the people and not make promises. I went through many evictions. My parents had no one to talk to. No one listened to them. No one gave them hope that they could move on. They didn't even know that they could file for social housing until this association came up. My mum has been living in the community since 21 and she's now 47. During evictions, it's very tough. It was very tough for myself as well. I went through many evictions and it was still difficult for me to see another eviction because I knew those moments. I knew what they meant. It was hurtful for me to see other people go through that again. I knew what was going on. I knew I was going to see children cry. I knew I was going to see desperate mums. That there would be fathers that had no idea what to do, had no idea what to give up, what to take with them. You can see everything unfurl beforehand. You can see the children have to take their school bags. Children have to take their school bags, but the mums have to take their purses, their bags, because that's where the documents are. And without the documents, there's nothing you can do. We are still in contact with some of the people who got evicted. Some of these people still come to us after 1, 2, 3 years because they found support within us, and that was very important for them.
Acesta este motivul principal pentru care pleacă, să evite un conflict nenecesar acum, știind că oricum nu va putea evita. Celălalt element care cred că este acolo și pentru care menționează faptul că el face și botează mai mulți ucenici.
Good evening everyone and welcome. I know you've come from all around Europe. Thank you very much for coming, and I hope you had a good time at Casa Transit, the Transit House. Today I'm going to talk about environmental racism and about spatial segregation and how this affects our children, how this impacts our life, how it impacts our everyday lives, access to a quality job, access to good quality education. 13 years ago, I got evicted from Kwaste Street together with the entire community. There were 76 families, around 350 people. We were evicted to Patarut, close to the city dump. 40 families got a small 16 square meter room and 36 families were left behind. They had to live outside. In December, a few days before Christmas, it was below 20 degrees Celsius. Ever since then, we've been living there. When you live in a ghetto, when you live in a community on the outskirts of a city, you should know that access to information, for instance, is very limited. Access to internet is very limited. You have access to nothing at all. You are basically excluded from society. Children have nowhere to play. They have nowhere to spend their free time. And that is because they're surrounded by the landfill, by rubbish, This is where all the rubbish comes from Cluj-Napoca, from other cities around. But that's where our children live. They have nowhere to play, they have nowhere to spend their spare time, and this affects their life tremendously. And that is because they lose hope. They don't trust themselves, they don't have self-esteem. When they go to a playground, like Maria was saying, when they go to a playground in the city, because Patarut, the landfill, is part of Cluj-Napoca, is part of the city, well, then all the other children reject our children. So they end up creating their own circle of friends, Roma friends exclusively. And they end up doing wrong things. They end up abusing drugs. 13 years ago, when I got evicted to Patarut, I had heard nothing of drugs. There were no drugs in our community, but now you can see a lot of people using drugs in our community. People drink alcohol, there's domestic violence, there's prostitution as well in our community. This impacts your life greatly. And that is because we're excluded from society and nobody supports us, financially speaking, morally speaking. Everyone in the city associates us with the landfill and rubbish. When you live in the landfill, your health is at risk. A few years ago, I was a completely different person. I've completely changed. Our children have stomach diseases and skin infections that doctors don't even know how to cure them. Some physicians have told us, I've never seen this thing before. A lot of dear people close to me have died. And this is just throughout a few years. Together with Enika here and other members of our association, we installed a device that measures the pollution of the air, and we've realized that the air in Patarut at the landfill is 700 or 800 times more polluted than admissible, than legally admissible. It's like it's just like a sort of Auschwitz. You're not directly gassed, but it happens in time. It does happen over time. It depends on how strong your body is. A few years ago, a study was commissioned to examine the water, the air at the landfill. The results were never made public. They were never given to us. We went to ask for the results of the tests, and they were never given to us. For a few years now, I haven't been living in that community, but I do work for the community at the landfill. My children still have the same friends back in the community at the landfill. We have moved to the city in the meantime, but we live in a neighborhood where there are many senior people. There are very few kids, but my children do not socialize with the other kids. My children still have the same friends they had in the past when we lived at the landfill. The fact that we moved into the city from the landfill hasn't changed much. The only thing is that we no longer live within that kind of pollution. But our life, our relatives are still at the landfill, and that is because we have spent too much time there. In the meantime, the city hall was careless. Social housing now, our association, helps everyone. We don't just support a certain category of people. We want social housing for everyone, regardless of skin color, age, ethnicity. When you go through an eviction, your life changes. You never go over that trauma. It never heals, unfortunately. One trauma never comes alone. So you find yourself at 40 and realize that you have so much trauma that you haven't been able to heal. And that is because you cannot. You simply cannot do it. The City Hall has never come to ask, are you okay? Would you like to go back? Would you like us to do something for you? Eugen might tell you this story. We have had a case law with the town hall for many years now. We are still waiting for the results. But there is a lot of injustice. When the Roma communities start, that's where the electricity, the internet, the asphalt ends. There are no resources for us. There are no resources for Roma people. They do not have access to all the community's facilities. It's very difficult to live in polluted areas because your life is affected, your daily life, your job. For instance, if you have a job, if you want to go for a job interview, the first impression is the most important thing. So how can you go to for a job interview? Even if you wash your clothes, they will still smell of the landfill. People on the bus will avoid you because you smell of rubbish, of the landfill, of smoke. Unfortunately, racism nowadays is very high indeed. And to their shame, there are so many people who work in the City Hall, in public institutions, and do not know how to handle, how to behave with people of any kind of ethnicity. Maria, myself, and other colleagues from our association had to support people, had to go with other people to help them get an ID or a certain document. And that is because we have always been seen, regarded as different. Can I say something else? Okay, I will close now. But I'm really happy that we have been able to organize ourselves for a few years now, that we started out as a small group of people, but we are so many now. And I'm really happy that many students for several years now have joined us for protests, for meetings, and I think that's where the change begins. I don't think things will change overnight, but I hope that in 10 years' time we'll see a massive change. And that is because students are able to do that. They come here, they accumulate information, knowledge, and they convey this information to other friends. And I think this is what change means. This is where it begins. It begins to each and every one of us saying to our friends, Romas are okay. They are normal people. They have normal jobs. They go to school. And let's not forget the long 500 years history when we were slaves, when we were deported, when we were sent to Auschwitz, Transnistria, Birkenau, and so on. You might see beggars in the street, and that's because they didn't have the strength to start from scratch again. Thank you very much.
Yes, good evening. Many times we go together to places in order to speak. People with many ethnic backgrounds, Romanians, Hungarians, Roma people. We're going to the municipality meetings because we believe that it is very important to be there with our bodies together in the same space and to create the possibility of us to have the chance to speak up So our activism was born this way, somehow spontaneously. The ones who are white and somewhat more privileged with a job as mine at the university, for example, we're trying to create possibilities for our colleagues, comrades and their families, and as it is possible for more women from Pataret to express themselves. And it is not easy to formulate a political message and to make our voices heard, and to make a personal story, to transform their personal stories into a political message and a political statement. At the beginning, we didn't even know what to do, how to start. We were a handful of people. In 2010, we believed that we could rationally have a discussion with the municipality about human rights, women's rights, about racism, and everything that was trendy at the time. But this was all facade on part of the municipality, so we couldn't sit down to have a normal discussion with them. So we had an idea to make a protest, that we learned how to make protests on the spot, so what it means to stand up to the gendarmerie, and we started to formulate our messages, and from there on we got this idea to formulate our indignation and a message on the dignity of these people, whose dignity was very much so affected by the actions of the municipality. So from that point on, the anti-racist idea and the initiative of anti-racist actions was started to form a very important dimension of our struggle. Greta spoke about the environment, how does the environment affect them, and Maria spoke about how the environment that they are living in, or they lived in, used to live in, affected the mental development of her children. So at one point we started to understand that all places where Roma people used to live, you saw in the movie and you heard from Linda also, these people were forcibly evicted because someone wanted to do something else there, an investment. So the investment became somehow a justification of forcible evictions on the part of the municipality and local authorities. So that was their attitude, that in pair with the locals who were living there, that they have to get rid of these people. So this is how racism works on a day-to-day basis. And they're also very important. Our protests are very important. Linda and Maria are very strong women. For me, personally, they give me much strength. But we have to mention the fact that when we call the locals to participate at our protests, not only for the issues of Roma people, but housing in general, people tend not to attend our protests because they do not want to appear alongside Roma people, for example. So then our movement became associated with Roma people, which in turn means for many people in Cluj poverty, and they do not want to get associated with these terms and these meanings. But this trend is somehow it's showing some changes. Well, Linda mentioned earlier that she's hopeful to see more young people and students getting involved in the movement. So next is Eugen. Yep. So my work has to do with the association I'm part of, Roma Just, and the association, as I told you yesterday, focuses on the abuses committed against Roma people. In the form of forcible evictions. So we try to help these people in more than one location throughout Romania. So these are not isolated cases in Romania. So this racism, we can meet this racism all around the country. For example, around 2010 in Eforie, the mayor who started demolishing 45 houses at the same time, and the people there living there before were they were moved away from the city. So actually the place, Eforia, the town, is a very picturesque town. You should go and visit. So these people were moved to barracks in containers where they do not have electricity or running water, and other services were not provided by the municipality. The children couldn't go to school. The same is the situation regarding the health of the people living in these containers. And these are the cases that we are worried about, and we want to deal with. we managed to prove that the demolition project was an illegal one, and since that ruling, we are trying to get to the point where these affected families will get a favorable ruling so that they can get some reparations. So the majority of them, the majority of the cases are at the human rights courts, European human rights courts right now at the moment. So these people went through a lot. Whether we're speaking of their long journeys through the institutions of Romania, the judicial institutions, or whether we speak about their traumatic story of of being evicted. So all this judicial process has been going on for about 10 years now. Our association is trying to fix their situation with some small scale interventions, but the local authorities have more up on their sleeves. They're much stronger, and they're working against us. So our victims, who are children, for example, in kindergarten, who have parents that are leaving the country for work. But we are trying to solve these cases through reparations or financial aid. So we have this strategical dilemma, how to solve this juridically, which is the best way to bring justice to these communities. We're saying that we have to achieve changing the laws. But if we go we focus on individual cases, then this won't help us to solve the bigger picture. I'm meeting lawyers and even lawyers from your coalition. I've been in touch with them since, and I want to tell you that these cases are not singular. In Miercurea Ciuc, for example, we have 230 people. Their houses were burned down, and they were moved to a sport hall, and they were promised social housing. So in this sport hall that they were moved to. They were living in very unfavorable conditions. So it's about 230 people being thrown into a hole and waiting for their situation to be solved. But this did not happen. They had only one bathroom, for example. A similar case from Bacău, a mother of 3 children. Left her children at the mall, and when she came back, she found that her children were beaten. They were called racist names in Romanian. They were told to get out of this country. So we decided we wanted to take up on this case. And as far as I understand, the aggressors were policemen. So, do I have any more time? So, what? Okay, when it comes to the letter of the law, we're interested in the principle of humanity. What are the criteria, for example, when you have to deal with a forcible eviction? What are its effects regarding the health of children, for example? So there are a lot of social and human factors you need to consider. So we are willing to go with these cases to the European Court of Human Rights. And it's very hard to change the mentality of judges in Romania, and the local authorities are hard to convince. So we are organizing trainings with them and for them. I could tell you, I could speak a lot about how these authorities view these cases and what are their attitudes towards us. This is what I had to say, and I wish you all luck. And I hope that everybody will manage to help the people you are working with.
Thank you, John. And now I think we can open our discussion. There is a Q&A session now. If you have any questions, any comments to make, feel free to do so now.
Thank you for being here and telling us about this. I was going to ask,
We have a government ordinance
137 from 2000, which is give power to the equality body. It's a National Council of Combating Discrimination. That is the important one. Then we have in the Penal Code 2 articles. That is 369, which speak about discrimination, and 77 age, which again is aggravant if you make like a hate crime. And about the hate speech, again, it's regulated by the National Council of Combating Discrimination. So we have a legislation, and also from 2 years now, in 2021, from January, we have anti-Gypsy, anti-Tsiganism is called in Romania, but it's anti-Gypsy legislation, which again we work with us.
Actually, the Social Housing Now group, we had 3 cases that we brought to the National Council Against Discrimination. One of the cases was the eviction from Coastay in 2010 and forced relocation nearby the garbage dump. And we won that case. The result is that they state that it was a case of discrimination, and the City Hall has to pay a fee of 6,000 lei, 100 euro or something. The second case was when we signaled to them the discriminatory character of social housing allocation criteria, and there again they gave us, they accepted the case again. The City Hall had to pay a fee of 6,000 euros and to publish on their website that there is this decision against them. And now what is running is a recent one. It's about the new landfills, because the old landfill was closed in 2015, which in 2010 the City Hall built these so-called modular houses for people from Coastay Street at a distance of 800 meters from the old landfill. That was closed. New 2 landfills were opened at the same distance. So we started this case saying that it's illegal to place a landfill nearby a legally constructed residential area. But that case is still running. So, yeah. Cases, but asta e.
Alte întrebări? Other questions?
First of all, thank you, all of you, for being here. And I must say the first thing I want to say is that it is very important to see that persons with such an history remain alive and with such capacity of being there. I'm sorry that I don't speak Romanian, and okay, thank you. And maybe I have missed some of the things you said, but I must say I know this scenery because I come from a country where Roma people are very much discriminated. And it is both social. Yesterday, a comrade was telling, yeah, anti-Roma racism is the kind of the consented racism in Portugal. Because now we are discussing very much racism against black people. They are building a very strong movement. But when it comes to Roma people, it's very much accepted that it is like that. And it's probably your fault. That I'm talking about the mentality in my country. So even when it comes to the state, really, we have plans, central governmental plans, strategical plans to integrate Roma people, because the state considers that Roma people they must make an effort to come to our society. So that's the scenario in Portugal. And it shows up everywhere. At schools, in housing, and in courts too. So it's very much the same. And we think that, okay, to fight that in courts, it's a kind of, you know, a vanguard. How do you say that? Huh? It's a thing that you must do, but it can't end there, because there are not enough lawyers to do that for every case. I suppose you said something like that, but I wasn't able to understand everything. So, since you came to and it's not the first time you are with us, I think that is a kind of reminder for the coalition that we have to, so it is a court case, but it is a political case, and a changing of mentality case that I don't know how it goes, because it is the difficult part of it, because when you go to specifically interviewing one person, they say, oh, no, of course, people like everybody else and so on, but it's not the case in everyday life. We know that. So I think in the coalition, we should have this issue about racism taken very seriously in our speeches, in our demands, and well, all the time, because it is really, it can't go on like this. So, but thank you for being here.
Alte întrebări? Any comments, questions?
Questions?
So, like I told you in my intervention, we have a group with a coalition, and it's lawyers from Cyprus, Greece, France, Portugal, and maybe in the future with your projects to speak about the strategic litigation, if it's not the individual litigation. So that is important for the resources. We have a project from the European Commission, and we can do some conferences, some meetings, a lot of work, but is not eligible to pay the lawyer to go in the court. So it's very strange. The program is strategic litigation, but when it comes to pay the lawyer, they don't allow you to pay the lawyer like in the contract. I don't know why. It's a reason from them. So I think it's very important when we speak about rights, we speak about law, we speak about court, and we speak about justice. So if we go to for in the school, we have the right of education. When we speak about house, we speak the right of housing. So all is about the rights. So lawyers are important, and maybe for you to have some people with you in your work about legislation and to change a little bit the paradigm to have in your teams. If it's not lawyers, because it's expensive, but maybe people who have ideas and they work with, legislation, justice, and something like this.
Yeah, thank you, Maria, for pointing the importance, vital importance of this. Actually, lately we decided to speak more and more explicit and clear about the fact that racism kills. So racism doesn't only creates disadvantaged housing situations, it's not only discrimination, but it's a killer. It's an arm in the hand of a violent state, as we talked about yesterday. And in the communities of Patarut, out of the 1,500 persons who live there, 2 years ago we found like 6 people above the age of 65. So people die very early. People die of cancer. People suffer of all illnesses, which, cynically put, we cannot prove that it is because of the toxic environment, but it's an obvious fact, right? When you live there for 20 years, 30 years, and the landfill is toxic because we measured it. So it's stupid, hearing how people still say, but you should prove it, that this was the cause of their deaths. So we will, therefore, I guess we need to find more ways to fight against this criminality of racism. So, that's...
O să vorbesc în română.
Romania?
Mulțumesc foarte mult pentru...
Thank you very much for everything you have said, for all your stories. They're very impressive. I have 2 questions for you. I'm a simple citizen. I'm not sure how much of an activist I can call myself. However, I'm really up in arms about social injustice. And I would like to ask you, because around me, with my friends and my family, in our discussions, I realize that there are ever more people. I'm 47, so there are many people around my age or older than me who say carelessly and carefree that they are racist. We are educated people, but more often than not, people around me say, I'm a racist. What's the problem? So my question is, how could we, if we care about this, if we're mere citizens who care about human rights and the fight against discrimination, how could we be effective against this phenomenon? What could we do? And the second question is, in time I have participated in other events by social housing now, but I don't know how active you are on social media. How much can you reach out to people? I think that will have a great impact. Through repetition, obviously, through everything you say, through your stories, the violence you've been subject to. Thank you. I would like to say something about the second question. Maybe it's not a good answer, but I cannot help myself. I think what is important for us is not to be on social media or what it's called. What is important for us is to be with the people, not to write articles or stories on social media. If we were to wait for Facebook reactions or for televisions to come and interview us, the people who really need us would be demoralized. What's important is for us to be there when they need us. And if it happens again, we'll be there again. And about racism, is your family racist? I didn't get that. Well, you chose the wrong family then. No, it's not just my family or members of my family, other people. Yes, about your question about social media, yes, we are present. We have a website, Social Housing Now. We have a Facebook page. We have a lot of information about evictions, protests, about our events. The events this week, for instance, are published on the website. We have the Caramida, the brick newspaper that we've been writing for many years. We have a lot of debates there and discussions and articles. But you see, we don't have a TV channel. But we have a community radio station. It's called Radio Pata. We have a website for our radio station as well. We broadcast news about what happens at our community, at the landfill. It's about the Roma people, the Roma culture, their lives, what kind of jobs they have, children going to the kindergarten, what it's like for them. So you have a lot of information. You can see it on Facebook. As for the other question... Ow. Unfortunately, I personally can't say that. I really don't know. But I really hope you don't mind my saying this. No, it's a very honest question. Okay, so I will try to answer it. Ever since childhood, people, without wanting to, without meaning to, have the tendency, so people have the tendency to tell their children whenever they misbehave to say, the gypsies will get you, the gypsies will eat you. So when you say such a thing to your child, to your small child, the gypsy will come and get you, you might not even realize it. You might not realize it's racist. But I think it should stop, and it should start with adults, because without even realizing it, we convey such bad messages to our children, and they grow up believing this is true. And whenever they see a gypsy person, a Roma person in the street, they will say, oh, this person might attack me, might assault me, might do me harm. But time is not lost, all is not doomed. You can change things. You can change things with your children, with your grandchildren, with children around you generally. Just tell them, the Roma people are people just like us. You can play with them, you can interact with them. We have a very long history that is not taught at university or in schools. But obviously you can read about it on the internet. For 500 years we were slaves. Our women were raped, our men were castrated. There were so many atrocities all throughout this history. Of course, you're familiar with the semi-documentary film Aferim. It's a Romanian feature film. You can realize how horrible our history is even by watching that. So what you can do is ask yourselves, how come these people are the way they are? Like Eugen here, he is a lawyer, for instance, right? For many years now, we've managed to send our children to schools, to universities. There are new opportunities now for now. We can see that people are changing. They're emancipated now. But, of course, if they're given the chance and the opportunity, and if they're accepted, but I think it will be good for these people who you say are racist, it would be good for them to talk to someone. I could talk to them. I volunteer, so that they realize that the Roma people are not all that bad. They are not the way they envisage them to be. And I can honestly say that you can come to Patarât, to the landfill. You can come with me to visit a family, or you could go with Enika, with someone else. But rest assured that if you go to a house, to a family in Patarât, they will serve you food and they will treat you well and they will treat you like a friend, because the Roma people are very friendly and very open and very warm. Many times when I go there for work, they will invite me for lunch, for dinner. They will give me some stuff. And I hope I'm not offending you. This is not my intention, because this happened to me many times. I think that if a Romanian who has never seen you before, I think that a Romanian who's a stranger will never invite a Roma person over for dinner or for lunch. But the Roma people, well, what I can say is that they give you respect, but they need to be given the opportunity to be seen and known. I really hope that I managed to answer your question, and I do apologize if I offended you in any way. No, that's okay. Thank you.
Well, for the conversation and Eniko and all the team with whom you filmed this film, because it's extremely important to get I don't know, really detailed and complete information on the injustice that's going on for so long time. I just wanted to. In line with this, I don't know, the topic of the need to get more familiar with the personal life of Roma people and get more familiar of the reality of your life while living in the same town with some people, and I don't know, sharing public transport with the people who have prejudices and are not aware of the realities you have. I don't know, there is an example in Croatia I just wanted to mention. I think it could be useful for future generations, well, for everybody, but especially for children. In the town of Osijek, which is in the east of Croatia, there is, well, in the part of Slavonia, there is really well-organized civil society around the somehow improving the life of the Roma community. And a couple of years ago, they opened an interesting museum of the personal stories of Roma people, and it's situated in the city center, in the old historic center of the town of Osijek, and the city municipality gave a really well-equipped space for that museum, and there you can see a collection of personal stories, family stories of different Roma, of different members of Roma community from all over the Croatia, but specifically from the region of Slavonia. You can read it. It's in a written form, but as well there are short films filmed with every single protagonist of whose story is presented in that museum, and these are everyday stories from people with the idea to demonstrate the similarities and the normality of the lives of different Roma people around Croatia who are living. Some of them, many of them from that permanent exhibition manage to get education, or are already second or third generation who are living well and having good lives. Some of them are struggling. There is a story of a single dad who is from Roma community and of his dedication of taking care of his children. And I think I just wanted to mention, because it's a beautiful project, if it helped me a lot to, I don't know, to get familiar and to get information and inside feeling of, I don't know, getting to, well, feeling of the life in the Roma community. And there are excursions for school excursions for children being organized to visit that exhibition, that museum. And I think it's some kind of positive project that could help to I don't know, to teach children and all the other people in our communities to be more tolerate and to be more open to in a communication with Roma community. And there are plans to do the same thing in that museum for Jewish community and all the other 22 minorities which are living in the region of Slavonia, but they started with the Roma community.
Cine mai?
Te rog.
Nu. Vorbesc în română? Ok.
I will speak in Romanian. Indeed, when we speak of racism, we speak of stereotypes and prejudice. Each and every single person has such things, but it's up to us what we do about them. A very important tool. When we see abuse going on, when we see racism going on, the classical kind of racism, the direct kind of racism, we should be able to protest. But unfortunately in Romania, we do not think that the Romanian justice system will work. And this lack of trust will stop us from actually acting. Just like Eniko was saying, when she tries to organize a protest and there are only 10 people showing up, we realize that many people will not go to a protest because they think that nothing good will come out of it. We cannot speak of real education against racism in Romania in schools because people do not even know what a stereotype is, what prejudice means, and how you can become prejudiced and how you can discriminate. Racism is somehow institutionalized in our country. Perhaps within the families, people have had events or have had occurrences that made them say that they were racist. But I do want to say that we do have tools at our disposal. There is legislation, and we must trust those organizations that fight racism and discrimination. We must trust that they do their job well. If you find a case of racism, if you know of a case of racism, you can come to us and we can report it. We do have tools. We are not hopeless. I remembered something positive. Maybe some of you know this, some of you might not know it, but the Roma generation is the youngest generation in the whole of Europe. In fact, the youngest community. And involuntarily, yes, this is true.
Și cumva ei
and they will pay for our retirement. they will work and they will pay for our pensions. So we should start tolerating each other. Because there is this new trend for Romanian people to marry Roma people. It's not such a big deal anymore. My daughter-in-law is a Romanian. My granddaughter is a hybrid. I call her a hybrid because she's half Romanian and half Roma. We're just people at the end of the day. That's what we need to convey to others. If you give someone the opportunity to do a job, to work well, they will do it. They will do a good job. And in a few years' time, we'll be even more numerous than other communities, but I'll stop here for the time being. I would like to add something, and I will say it in Romanian, because this is also linked to your question. First of all, I would like to thank our colleagues for coming and talking to everyone about heavy stuff, like Maria was saying, because this is very difficult. It's very hard to say the same things over and over again, things which are traumatic, but we make this effort because there is a cause at stake. And I believe that concerning the question, what do we do about racism when we see it happen, I think there are several answers. We've heard a few, right? We could answer systemically, politically. We can have protest campaigns and fight against racism, institutionalized racism. So we could use these official channels. Yes, of course, we could have a protest, but it would be great if a lot of people turned up. This is one way of reacting. On a more personal level, because that was your question, it sounds difficult at first, but we should not forget that for non-Roma people, for people who do not experience racism, it is very easy to say, well, I don't know what to do because this is not about your life, right? But I believe that this is the very reason why it's so important to say whatever, to just stand up and say something, to at least say what you have just said is not okay, and then start building some kind of common ground, some kind of understanding, so that people understand that racism is not acceptable in any manner. And I believe that perhaps this way we could put anti-racism at the center of social movements, like Maria was saying, as well as at the center of daily meetings, friendly meetings with our family, with our friends, who knows. Sometimes maybe we turn a blind eye to what happens wrong around us, and that's not okay. We shouldn't turn a blind eye, and maybe that's what we should keep in mind. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming.
We should close it here. Okay, so thanks again for our guests, and well, we'll see each other upstairs.
So I just want to make a logistical announcement again. So dinner